Okay, well, welcome everyone to our fourth weekly Power Lunch in the 30-minute Power Lunch series for legislators who are increasingly busy. So some may listen in later, for executive branch officials who are in the same boat, and for others, select few in the policy influencer category. My name is Seth Berry. I'm the House Chair of the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee in the Maine Legislature. Really appreciate your joining us for this Power Lunch series. And we are here thanks to the Our Power Coalition. Andrew is here on the staff from Our Power, and Stephanie as well. And they're the people making this happen behind the scenes. We are an organization of over 30 other organizations, as well as individuals with significant expertise. Great to see a couple of co-sponsors to the bill. My lead co-sponsor, Senator Rick Bennett, is here with us. Another great co-sponsor from the Versant territory is Representative Nicole Grahowski, also on the committee. And we'll be hearing today from some very exciting and important guests, specifically John Clark and Sharon Staz. And I'm just going to introduce things, and then, as we always do, turn it right over to them for a brief presentation, and then for questions and answers from you. So Sharon Staz is the former general manager and treasurer of the Kennebunk Light Power District, where she worked for 17 years, maintaining lower cost, reliable, locally controlled power for Kennebunk, as well as several other towns or portions of towns in that area. It is the least cost utility in the state. I think clocking in at about 2.1 cents per kilowatt hour for delivery right now. Very impressive, less than a third of what CMP charges. Very reliable. And for 12 years before that, she managed the Princeton, Massachusetts Municipal Light Department, where she received the American Public Power Association's 7 Hats Award for outstanding service to the community. That's just a brief piece of what Sharon's about. She's got a lot more to offer, but just to keep things moving, John Clark is also with us. He is the former general manager of Houlton Water Company, which also delivers electricity, despite the name. They serve, I think, part or all of 7 to 9 towns. John can correct me, up in the Houlton area. He did that for 33 years. He came at it from a technical background, as an engineer out of Maine Maritime Academy. And John also, during his distinguished career, was the president of the board of the Northeast Public Power Association. I almost said New England. It's Northeast Public Power Association. And also was one of the founding directors of NMISA, which is the Northern Maine Independent System Administrator. You've heard of ISO New England, I'm sure. Part of Maine, up in that neck of the woods, the Northern Maine portion is not part of ISO New England. They're part of NMISA, and John was a founding director of that system operator. So we're just incredibly pleased to have both of them with us. Oh, and by the way, Houlton is almost as cheap as Kennebunk, which is equally impressive considering their very rural territory. So both less than a third the rates of their nearest for-profit neighbor. Just so lucky to have them with us. And I'm going to turn it over, I guess, to Sharon to kick us off for some brief remarks about her experience with consumer ownership, and then we'll go to John.
Thanks, Seth. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And I just want to tell you about consumer-owned utilities. You don't see very much about us in the press in the state of Maine. So I'm going to try to give you some background and some overall knowledge, or share some, I hope, with knowledge. Consumer-owned utilities serve approximately 49 million people in over 2,000 cities and towns nationwide and in our 5 territories. Here in Maine, we're mostly small systems, ranging from Isle of Ho, that the last count had 130 customers, to Eastern Maine Electric Co-op, which is just under 13,000. Historically, there were more, but they were bought up over time by the for-profit companies seeking expansion. All are varied. One does sewer, electric, and water. Several have solar farms. One did an innovative and successful wind project, and all, on average, offer better reliability at lower costs than the investor-owned utility that serves us in our bordering towns. Our boards are elected by our residents who are our customers. Our meetings are open, as are all of our records. And though the customer no doubt puts service, reliability, and rates at the top, our organizational charts all show the customer at the top, followed by our boards and by our general managers or superintendents. There are over 78 consumer-owned utilities in the 6 New England states, and most of them are members of NEPA. This nationally recognized organization gives us the resources that are available to us for education, training of our staff on substations, metering, transmission, and on and on. And in fact, one of our very own Mainers was the director and head trainer for all of the New England systems, recently retiring after just 10 years of nationally recognized service. If you look at just a couple of systems in Massachusetts, there's Reading Municipal that serves approximately 70,000 customers. 1/3 of them are residential. The rest are commercial, industrial, and municipal customers. They are the largest of the 41 mass systems in regard to electrical load. Their mission states that they have transformed from a reactive to a proactive utility, and they are doing that to ensure efficiency, safety, and reliability. Their motto, be efficient, get greener, and go paperless, and they offer a community solar program. Braintree, just south of them, installed a hybrid cable to offer high-speed internet. They expanded that into phone service. They own a solar farm and a gas-fired generation plant. Burlington Electric in Vermont is no doubt the greenest of us all, offering rebates on electric lawnmowers, electric leaf blowers, electric bikes, electric vehicles. Their intent is to be net zero by 2030, and I'm sure they're going to make it. If you go across the country, you can learn about Sacramento Utility District, one of the 6th largest of the COUs in the country, with over 645,000 customers, serving 1.5 million people. They have 2,179 employees. They do innovative partnerships, strengthen their communities, care about their customers, and again, intend to be net zero by 2030. I share all of this to let you know that consumer-owned utilities do indeed have the talent, the ability, the knowledge, and the resources to follow and do our business model. Large or small, we're not country bumpkins. We're Maine Maritime graduates, Yale graduates, engineers, attorneys, and even if we came up through the ranks, we are leaders in our field who understand that customer satisfaction and service is the #1 reason we exist. That all leads to better reliability and lower costs, because that's what the people want and need. We're here to serve, not to make a profit. John?
Thank you very much. You do a great job. I'm telling other people are listening. I told Aaron the other day, when we were speaking in front of the legislature, we always leaned on Sharon because she does that. She speaks well, and she's very forthright and honest. So I appreciate it, Sharon. I'm going to speak a little bit about myself. I'm a Aroostook County native. Grew up in the Houlton area. Went away for, I went to college at Maine Maritime and also Northeastern. Went away and worked for a privately owned utility for about 14 years. I like to say I didn't even know they had customers. I was a project engineer and focused on getting on budgets and getting the work done and getting out of there so the contractor could take over. So even though I was a customer, I really never focused, I never talked to customers, just contractors. So then the job at Houlton came up and I applied. It was like going home for me, obviously. And I still had family here, so that was good. I spent 33 years there. I'll talk a little bit about elected boards. Houlton has been very fortunate, as I know Kennebunk has, and many others across the state, having knowledgeable, professional people on our elected boards. Houlton Water Company is owned by the town of Houlton, was originally a stock company developed by a group of entrepreneurs who sold all their stock to the town of Houlton in about 1903. And so the town of Houlton's owned that stock for many years. The directors are elected by the citizens of Houlton. And as I said, they've been an excellent group to work with. Educators, professional people, local business owners, but they've always focused on one thing. Customer is priority number one, okay? And always looking after the customer. And that is what you can do as a consumer-owned utility, and that is what your new entity will be able to do. There will be no other stockholders. The customers will be the stockholders, and that is critical. I had a good friend that served on the old Maine Public Service Company board. And he said to me one day, you know, John, he says, this has been a good experience serving on this utility, but a lot of times I have to make decisions that are not in the interest of customers because I have to take care of the stockholder. The stockholder is priority number one, not the customer. And sometimes I make decisions that go against the benefit of customers. So that is what you really obtain if you go this route of a consumer-owned utility. You will obtain the ability to take care of yourself as a customer. And you will find good people to serve on those boards, and they will be intelligent, they will be ambitious, and they will want to make this work for you. So I applaud Seth and his group for everything they've done to get this started, and I hope they can continue towards success. So I guess that's what I have to say about CLUs at the moment, Seth.
And
fantastic. Well,
questions.
Yes, thank you both for joining us and for your wisdom and expertise. So this is a great time for folks to ask questions. If you have any, you can just raise your hand or post them in the chat. I'm bad at seeing hands, so Andrew might have to help me with that. But if you want to just jump right in with one, you can unmute yourself and do so. I also want to just ask another of our co-sponsors. We've got members from both bodies here. Senator Stacey Brenner, one of the co-sponsors as well. Glad that Stacey could join us, and she's also the president of the board of MAFCA, which is kind of cool as well. Just a little bit about Stacey's extensive resume. We have so many qualified, highly competent people involved in the Our Power organization. We're growing every day. Really exciting. So questions for Sharon or John? I'm gonna just ask, you know, your rates in the districts that you ran for so many years, both of you, are less than a third the delivery rates right next door to you. You know, that's a significant difference, and you only do delivery, it's not the generation part. But if we're going to get people connected to the grid for all of our energy needs, to power our vehicles, to heat and cool our homes, to even power our factories, obviously cost is incredibly important. And why is it? Is it the low cost of capital? Is it the decision making that's more aligned with the needs of consumers? What is it that what's the secret to those incredibly low rates and good service?
Well, I'll speak to that a little bit, Sharon. There's several factors. I got to be honest with you. We probably don't pay our people as much as CMP does their people, including obviously from the general manager all the way down to the guy that sweeps the floor. That is one of them. The other ones, there's obviously the tax-free bonds that we're able to borrow money for. That helps incredibly. The issue of focusing on the customer and how do we keep costs lower and still provide reliability for that customer. For instance, Houlton Water spent about $9 million just recently to put a transmission line to New Brunswick Power directly. That we were able to do that and pay the debt on that 15-mile transmission line and still cost our customers less than our existing route of providing electricity through the old Maine public service system. So we're always there. COUs are always looking at the alternatives and what they can do to bring value to their customers, and just their customers, no one else.
Great. That's great. And I should clarify, our proposal will pay the workers just as much, and in fact, slightly more than they're getting now. So actually just had a meeting with some of them this morning. Yeah, I think the provisions that are in our bill to pay them at least as much are very important to us, and we're not going to find savings on the backs of our workers. We're going to do it right. Sharon.
Well, I think it's certainly what John mentioned, and just to add to that, we have one mandate, and that's to serve our customer. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to raise money and be a for-profit company to pay a shareholder who's made an investment in that company and expects a return on that investment in a financial way, not a service way. And that's also part of that equation. So if you take the accessibility to low cost, low interest, tax exempt bonds or other methods of financing, co-ops have resources through the federal government. There are, various ways for consumer-owned utilities to obtain low-cost financing. That, coupled with the fact that you don't have to make a profit to share with an investor, as Rich Silkman made the point at one of the previous power luncheons, I think is critical to adding to the fact that we can keep our costs good. We also maintain our systems and therefore reduce our overtime. If you're putting the money that you are permitted by the Public Utilities Commission to earn over what your out-of-pocket expenses may be, which is extremely limited, that money's put back into your system, and that maintenance is done day in and day out, so that when a storm comes through, you don't have the extended outages. You don't have located in York County, where recently the majority of CMP customers have lost power, Kennebunk has remained intact and not had outages, and yet we've had the same weather patterns. And that's because of daily attention to taking care of the system and upgrading it as needed, not waiting until it fails.
That's great. And just keeping in mind that folks are at different places with their background knowledge. Just a great question from Representative Sarah Pebworth that I do want to answer. Where are we at in the process? The bill has now been published. It is LD 1708. You can go to legislature.maine.gov. You can look up LD 1708 and you can read the language of the bill. I suggest that if you're not a legislator or a lawyer, that you skip down to the summary at the bottom, because that's a pretty good summary of what the bill would actually do. And you can obviously dive into the weeds from there. The bill is likely to have a hearing next week, we believe on Thursday at 10 a.m. So I'd encourage you to sign up if you haven't already. Legislators will be taking it up from there, first in the committee and then sending it out to the floor of the House and Senate. The bill does propose that it go to the voters, that we send it to the voters as a question up or down for ratification in November of this year. We have good polling to show that this is a popular idea. We are confident and we believe that the people should have a say. So the bill will include that provision as well. So hope that's helpful. And thank you, Andrew, for posting the question. All right, Wayne, I'm a little reluctant to get into stranded costs, but just because that's pretty technical, but is that what you want to talk about? We can do that briefly.
I just wanted to know
okay.
how significant Sharon thinks it is in terms of the difference in COU rates.
Okay, all right. Sharon, do you want, is stranded costs a big deal, and the difference is, a CMP likes to blame stranded costs. Is that why your costs are 13 or less than a third of what CMPs are?
No.
Okay.
No.
No. And most of that stranded cost has gone away for CMP and Emera. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. All right.
Taken years, but it's gone away, and at times CMP and Emera have given people rate decreases, and you've seen that in your rates because of doing away with standard cost.
Great. So that is an important point. Wayne?
Yeah, just one more question for our COU friends. Sharon mentioned the maintenance of the system, which prevents outages. What components of that are the critical ones? Is it tree trimming or something else?
It's a combination. It's making sure that if you have aging poles and they're leaning or they're rotted at the bottom, they get replaced. It's a matter of tree trimming. It's a matter of installing, I think, the proper wiring. In the case, and John and I disagree on this, and I'm happy to say that. But there are a variety of types of cable and wire out there. There's insulated cable that is very stiff, very sturdy.
That's what I'm holding right here.
Yep. Kennebunk actually installed throughout the 90s what was called peanut wire. And we believe that's one of our major strengths. Peanut wire can be skimmed with a pocket knife. The insulation is very, very thin. But it's just enough that when that tree limb comes and slaps on that wire, it prevents an outage. No wire is safe to touch. We 100% agree with our investor-owned utility colleagues on that. So you should never, ever go near a cable that's down on the ground. Whether you think it's electric or cable or television or telephone, don't touch it, don't go near it. And even these insulated wires are not protected. So it's tough to talk about an insulated wire because people immediately think, oh, I'm safe if I go near it. You are not safe, so don't go near it. But it does prevent outages. And if you use the right type, it's cost effective to install, easy for the utility workers to work with, and is, I think, a major saver of outages.
So why isn't CMP and Versant smart enough to do that?
I wouldn't use the word smart. I think it's an investment in the utility. In my opinion, CMP for a long time deferred maintenance. They are now talking about the billions of dollars that they're investing in transformers and animal guards and new cable. But that technology has been around since the 80s or 90s. Why are they just now getting to it? It's because I think when I first came to the state in 1998, I was warned that their attitude was, we'll fix it when it breaks rather than maintain it. And if that's the mentality that you have, that's not maintaining your system and preventing outages for customers.
Thanks. It's very compelling.
Great.
Look at
Bill Dunn, go ahead.
Since 2011, CMP's transmission rates have gone up 100%, and their distribution rates have gone up 15%. So where are they putting their money? They're putting it in transmission. Why are they putting it there? They get a higher rate of return. The heck with the distribution system if it falls over every week, which is what it does in my neighborhood. Although, like Sharon said, they're replacing finally all these rotted poles on my street. Say, John, I was talking with Ken Belcher last week up at Northern Maine ISA. He said the MPS territory transmission rate is now higher than ISO New England's.
Well, that's what Emera wanted to do all along. They finally achieved it and they sold it to Versant. I'm sure Versant likes it because that all justifies the connection to ISO New England. Yeah. And we, that's why we went to Canada about a year ago directly.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that line.
By the way, everyone probably knows this, but New Brunswick Power is a government-owned utility, just as Houlton or Kennebunk. Canada's loaded with them. Hydro-Quebec, there's many of them in Canada.
In fact, one of them owns Versant altogether. The city of Calgary owns NMAX, which in turn owns NMAX US, which in turn owns Versant. our new Bangor Hydro and Maine Public Service. So that's 100% government owned. And then we do also have significant government ownership of Iberdrola, which owns Avangrid, which owns CMP. Iberdrola has major government owners in Qatar. The government of Qatar is the largest of the government owners. The government of Norway is a big owner as well. And the government of Spain is also a major owner of Iberdrola. So very complex international structure for Iberdrola for sure, but a lot of government ownership there as well. So there's a little irony in some of the talking points that you'll be hearing next week at the hearing. They will be talking about how government ownership sounds like a terrible thing. It's ironic in a couple of ways. One is that we have actually a more competitive, more free market mechanism for the operations of the grid than they have now. There would be a free market competitive private sector bid for the operations contract. And in addition, perhaps more importantly, we are already government owned. It's just not our government that owns it.
That's especially galled me, Seth, that PUC would allow Versant to buy the old Bangor Hydro Maine Public Service territory owned by the city of Calgary now. Right. And that we're not smart enough to run it ourselves, but the Canadians in Calgary obviously are.
Exactly. Well, Hydro-Quebec is another one with the CMP corridor. They're beating us at what should be our own game, I think. So yes. We're gonna take it back. This is about what's the right business model, right? The real question is not whether we like CMP or whether we like Versant, whether we, appreciate some of the donations they're making lately to improve their reputation. You may have noticed some of that activity. It's not about all the rhetoric that's going to be flying around. For me, and I think for all of our co-sponsors on this call, and for most of us that have really thought about this, it's about what is the right business model for our future. What is the business model that's going to take us into a fully electrified, fully decarbonized future that is affordable, that is equitable, and that is reliable? That is the question before us. And it's a generational question. This is a question for the next century, maybe more. And we have incredible, dedicated individuals as part of the Our Power movement, as part of the push for this bill, LD 1708, an act to create the Pine Tree Power Company, who understand that the business model that makes sense for something that is so incredibly essential and pivotal to our future success on a livable planet is a nonprofit, consumer-owned business model, where there's democratic accountability, and I mean that with a small d, where there's transparency, where we have a say in how our decisions are made, and where the decisions are made for the right reasons in an affordable way. I think the low-cost capital is fantastic. If you can get capital at half the cost, as consumer-owned utilities do, that's great. But I think even more transformative is that the decisions are made for us, to benefit the customer. The incredibly important decisions that will be made in our grid. Do we use this insulated tree wire, or do we use bare wire? Do we use the technologies, the grid enhancing technologies that this company is offering us, or that company is offering us, or maybe something different? Do we use storage? Do we use distributed resources? Do we use efficiency? How can we make the grid work for everyone? Those decision points are, I think, arguably even more transformative than capital that comes at half the cost. So Our Power is dedicated to changing the business model, making it work for our future. We're so glad to have all of you join us. We'll be sharing this video. Please come back for our next Power Lunch, 12:30 next week. We have some surprise guests that are coming, and several other wonderful Power Lunches planned. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. It looks like good weather and sunshine for our solar panels. So go team, and great to see you all. Hopefully we'll see you at the hearing next Thursday, 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.